Now, let me call upon the Honorable Director of IMK, Professor Debashis Chatterjee, Advocate James Thomas, C.S. Ashik, and C.S. Sujit Kumar, TN President of CMA, to come to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have the formal inaugural session of the day. And we have the session everyone has been waiting for. The chief guest and the keynote speaker is with us. The energizing presence always everybody has been looking for. The one and only Professor Debashis Chatterjee, the visionary architect of IMK, will present the topic in the next inaugural session. Let me call upon C.S. Sujit Kumar, Honorable President of CMA, to welcome the chief guest and to chair and to take control of the session.
Good morning all. Our chief guest today, Dr. Debashis Chatterjee, Director IM, Chairman IMC Ashik, C.S. Ashik, Advocate James Thomas, Convener C. Ravi, other distinguished dignitaries, honored of the dais, students, ladies and gentlemen. I have great pleasure to stand before you on the auspicious occasion of the inauguration of the technical session of AMC 2023. The topic of the AMC is NextGen Management, Unlocking the Power of Intelligence. Technological revolution, especially in artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence, has changed the structure of management. We have our chief guest, Dr. Debashis Chatterjee, Director IM Kozhikode, today with us to inaugurate the AMC 2022. On behalf of CMA, I welcome Dr. Debashis Chatterjee, Director IM Kozhikode. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you. Now, with due respect, let's welcome our chief guest of the day, Professor Debashis Chatterjee, Director of IMK, to address the gathering and present the theme topic, NextGen Management, Unlocking the Power of Intelligence.
Please. Before that, I will just give an intro about our respected chief guest. Professor Debashis Chatterjee has taught leadership classes at Harvard University and at Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, Lucknow and Kozhikode for more than 2 decades. He has been awarded the prestigious Fulbright Fellowship twice for pre-doctoral research and postdoctoral work at Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. His published works include 18 books, including Karma Sutras, Leading Consciously, forwarded by Peter M. Senge for both the books, and Timeless Leadership, that have been translated into several international languages. Recently, he published his debut novel, Krishna, the Seventh Sense. He has trained more than 25,000 managers globally in Fortune 100 corporations and over 20,000 school principals and teachers. His recent book, Invisible Arjuna, has emerged as a path-breaking book in recent times. He has served as leadership coach to political leaders and CEOs of major Indian organizations. He has served as the Dean of SP Jain School of Global Management in Singapore, a pioneer in the field of Asian model in leadership. Professor Chatterjee served as the director of the Indian Institute of Management, IM Kozhikode, from 2009 to 2014. Then dean and turned professor at IM Lucknow. Professor Chatterjee is credited with transforming IM Kozhikode with an obscure regional school to an institution of national impact and global recognition. He also served as the Director General of IMI Delhi, India's first corporate-sponsored business school, and as independent director on the boards of several multinational and Indian companies. Professor Debashis Chatterjee was the mentor Director in IIM Amritsar from June 2018 to July 2019. He has been reappointed as the Director of IIM Kozhikode for the second 5 years term from June 2018. With these few words, I warmly welcome Dr. Debashis Chatterjee, Director IIM Kozhikode, to inaugurate the CMA AMC 2023 and to deliver the keynote address. Welcome you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Debashis Chatterjee.
When I tell you, you can start. Sure. Have you done it already or not? When I say it, you play it. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Good morning. You do the inauguration on the day of the program, not in the end of it, but this is a disruptive program, looks like. Technical session, NextGen management, unlocking the power of intelligence, right? I do not know if I'm really qualified to speak on technology and new generation. However, I've spent donkey's years running an institution. I've seen several generations of people and organizations. So I'll call out from my experience. If you allow me, I will keep my phone because there's an emergency in the family, and I would have to keep the phone on, right? So I would be speaking for roughly 20 minutes, and I've asked my people to show you a short film, which I called out, and generally speaking from my heart, based on what I know, the little I know about how organizations are shaping up. First, you have to understand, before you unlock the power of intelligence, you have to ask this question: what is intelligence in the first place? Most people think of intelligence as something that is only technologically crafted or created by an otherworldly force that we do not know about. But if you ask me, what would be an operational definition of intelligence that would be useful for the purpose of this morning? And I can go back to Mervyn Minsky, who is an MIT professor, father of artificial intelligence. He said once that intelligence is the ability to look at the same phenomena in different ways. So intelligence is a natural ability to look at the same phenomena in multiple ways. And how is that possible? How does intelligence come in place in the human form? And then you are defining artificial intelligence. So we are saying, if I have to use this intelligence to investigate, to inquire, and then to adapt my learning to a level where species other than us are not able to do so. So the birth of Homo sapiens, the evolution of Homo sapiens as a species, there were other species of human beings, only the Homo sapiens is a specific species that grew up head and shoulders above the other species and outwitted the others, so we have come to stay. About 8 billion of this species moving around the earth, largely with the power of an evolving intelligence. But what is that kind of intelligence? And where is artificial intelligence in the scheme of things? So before we go to organizations, you have to try and understand that this intelligence manifests because we are forever curious about what is the other side of the wall. What is the other side of the wall? That's a question. When one cow meets another cow, the cow is not going to ask, sister cow, where did you come from? What is your educational qualification? What are you good for? A cow will look at another cow and move on, right? But when a human being looks at a cow and says, where did the cow come from? How can I make use of this cow? What are the different variations of this cow? When does cows come? Which season do cows come? When do they give milk? And we'll have plethora of questions. The ability to question a phenomena from multiple angles is the birth of natural intelligence and the evolving nature of human intelligence. So very often, most people dealing with the world of intelligence don't know the distinction very often, don't make the distinction even if they know it, between what you call IA and AI. AI is artificial intelligence. IA is intelligence augmented. Natural intelligence augmented through artificial means. There's a difference between the two. When I use the intelligence of my natural carbon brain and I augment that with a silicon brain, which is a computer, I'm simply using my natural intelligence in a way that it does more than what it did before. Are you able to understand what I'm saying? I hope I'm able to communicate. Of course you understand, but I'm trying to communicate. I'm asking this question, so if intelligence that is augmented, I've said there are two categories of intelligence, natural intelligence and artificial intelligence, but I said natural intelligence, when augmented, is called augmented intelligence, which means intelligence improved through the silicon brain. And so if you look at this natural intelligence, which part of the natural intelligence can be augmented? There are 4 components of natural intelligence. If you could just put the phone on the sleep mode, it would help. It does hurt when the phone goes on. My thought gets disrupted. So what I'm asking this question, what are the 4 components of natural human intelligence? You see, the first component is what you might call rationality. We are rational people. We can divide everything into cause-effect relationships. Apple falls, and therefore there's a force called gravity behind the apple. It hits my head, and I react to it. So there's a cause, there's an effect, and rationality is able to map cause-effect relationship. The second aspect of natural intelligence is emotional capability. You know, emotions give me data. Somebody is angry with me, somebody is upset with me. The customer is not fully satisfied with the product. I can read that through emotions, right? A robot will find it difficult, but I can do that very quickly. So rationality, emotional capability, willpower. I have an internal system of generating a will to do something. And the fourth element of natural intelligence is ingenuity, which is the most critical part. Ingenuity. What is ingenuity? I will do it, not in the way you tell me, but I will do it in the way I want to do it. This is ingenuity. Now, if you look at what's going to happen in organizations of the future, these 4 aspects of natural intelligence, rationality, emotional capability, willpower, and ingenuity, of the 4, one is easy to replicate on a computer, which is rationality, which is a cause-effect relationship. It's very easy for a computer to do that. It doesn't require humongous capability, because you break up anything into cause-effect relationship. Alexa, do this, Alexa will do it, because Alexa has been programmed to do it. But if you ask Alexa to do something which Alexa is not programmed to doing, then Alexa will not be able to do it. Why? Because it cannot read a context that's different. The 2 things that a computer still cannot do, as well as we do naturally. One is tell stories, and 2, internally experience something at the emotional level. You will see this right now. We'll show a film clip, short film clip. You may have seen this before, called the treadmill. And can we have the treadmill here on? Can you just have it for a while, and then we'll discuss this. Come on. Can you have this on?
Yeah. Door open.
Radio on.
Playing radio.
And do lights.
Lights on.
Protein shake.
Making protein shake.
But she was too New York.
Loading New York. Set speed.
4.
4.
6.
6.
Child of 16.
16.
4. 16. 4.
4.
16.
Correction. 16.
She was too young. Oh, hey, Bian. Good luck. And I was too young. Stop.
Up.
9. Down.
Lights down.
Only 16. Only 16.
4.
Fra en klassiker til en annen, her er Summer of 69.
69.
Now you got the picture. I didn't need to tell you what the machine really can't do. It literally reads the interpretation without knowing what it means. You know, 69 has multiple interpretations in human culture. I'm not going to go into all of that. What I will do is, it is possible for us to internalize an experience. It is possible for us to ingeniously, creatively respond to situations, which the silicon brain as yet cannot do, right? So you will see these two then will be the beginning of the revolution that we are talking about. So what is the revolution? What is the tech revolution? Most people say, well, this is high tech. I mean, technology is technology only until it becomes biology. Today, smartphone is not technology because we have adapted to it. We all use phones, right? Phone is no longer technology. It's like saying pencil is technology, but it was technology one point in time. Today, pencil is no longer technology because it has become part of our biology, extended human capability. When something is available to all of us, yet only few of us can use, it remains in the domain of technology, right? So, when organizations begin to use programs that are easily available, accessible, and usable, then it no longer gives them competitive advantage. What gives them advantage is technology which is available but others don't know how to use, capitalize on, right? And so that then is a fundamental component of what you might call breakthrough, disruptive way of doing business. And so what kind of technology will be evolving from this space will depend on how you understand the evolution of organizational forms and leaderships and structures. Somebody said here that organizational structure is evolving. We have to find out how to unlock the intelligence inherent in the structures, but structure is not evolving. Organizations don't grow, people grow in their mental ingenious capability, and organizations are beneficiaries of that growth, right? So structures are changed by human beings, not the other way around. And so if there's an existing structure of doing business, what will disrupt this business is another form of intelligence called ingenuity, something I talked about. I was in Japan, I was crossing through Haneda Airport in Tokyo, and there were 7 checkpoints until I could get through for COVID and other things. I was thinking of Kerala like Japan. Kerala is a high process-driven society. So there's an elaborate process for everything, which is great, which is why this is one of the most civilized parts of India. But you see, this is also one of the most uncreative parts of India. Why uncreative? Because ingenuity cannot survive when process becomes static. When process becomes standardized to a point we don't challenge process at all. For a long time, it was LDF versus UDF, UDF versus LDF. One was the other. That process has been upset. And so you have to see there are different electoral considerations now. So that which is static will not give birth to a new generation. That which is dynamic comes from this human quality called ingenuity. And if you can map ingenuity, if you have a way of disrupting your conventional ways of doing business, and I'm going to go there, look at the evolution of businesses, how they evolved. 1.40 was largely about physical structures. If you looked at banks in those days, if you looked at the agricultural civilization from where resource-intensive industries, the bigger the size, the better you were as an organization. So physical size mattered. Power was invested in physical structure. If you looked at mainframe computers, you'll get that picture as well, right? So physical structure demonstrated your capability as a leader, as an organization. So you had to be large. You had to own the largest land, greatest number of employees, stuff like that. 2.0, machines started replacing the muscles. The mechanicalness replaced physicality. What was mechanicalness? A technology that could repeatedly do something which human hands, human body could not do. So machines replaced those muscles. Why? Because machines could repeatedly extend physical capacity, expansion of physical capacity, right? And then the third element, 3.0, was no longer about muscles or machines. It was about revolution of information. You could extract information out of a particular phenomena and use that same information repeatedly, the structure of that information repeatedly, to create businesses that others could not create. You look at Reebok, Nike as two shoemakers. They took information about what is the best brand of shoe, and they did not have to own a single shoe factory physically. They did not have to own a single machine. They had to own the design. And once you have the design, you run the business, right? So when you have the information architecture in place, the business belongs to you. What is that information architecture? You have to know what is the critical value creating process, and repeatedly you see a pattern emerging. Like you say very often in business, 20% of the customers give you 80% of the business, but which 20% you do not know. If you get that right 20%, then you will get the business, 80% of the business. But knowing which 20%, most companies don't even know, with the exception of big companies, that people who come to their companies, inside the companies, who they are, their identity, what is their buying behavior, what is their habit. So large amount of that data that you are supposed to have, you don't have. Therefore, you can't create the architecture of running your business in the most ingenious and the most rational lines, because you don't have a system of capturing that information. Each time you come to IIM, you see there's a registration process. We'll soon have a face recognition process. So we'll know who's coming for the 5th time or the 6th time. And we have to have a very different way of dealing with this person, right? Because you come here for the 6th time, you'll not be treated as somebody who's just a newcomer, because your orientation of the organization will be different. Yes or no? So it's not just about technology, it's about knowing which part of the data that you need to work on, and that component is very important. This was 3.0, but 3.0 is gone. Everybody is doing that now. Everybody is trying to capture data. You buy a small little thing from any hypermarket, you'll say, sir, phone number dijiye. And then you give us your name. So he's capturing the footfall, right? Everybody is doing it. So when everybody is doing it, technology no longer remains technology, it becomes biology. You have to move to the next stage. What is the next stage? The next stage is the real source of the revolution, real source of what is going to happen going forward and what's already happening, which is 4.0 world, where there is a revolution in the mind. It's called the cognitive revolution. How is a cognitive revolution different from a machine revolution or from information revolution? How is cognitive revolution different? Cognitive revolution is different because your entirety of how you process the world of reality changes. Today, India sends out 500 million WhatsApp. There are 500 million WhatsApp users in India. Even if we send 2 messages each, which means 1 billion messages are being sent every day from inside India. You know what kind of messages is that? How we are, how are we doing, when is Virat Kohli going to go do his 100? Things are changing India's cognitive map on an everyday basis. So this map, India Connected, is a very different kind of map. The consumer experience is being transmitted through social media, through WhatsApp. Are you able to see the evolving nature of the human brain? Do you see your own children? They don't listen to you. Much less than you listen to your parents. Why? Because they are looking at a very different world, and you don't have access to that world because you don't know the revolution that's happening in their minds. You have lost the way of talking to them. You see, the generation that's sitting here just behind you is a very different generation. If you ask them, is this technology? This is not technology, this is absolute, can you imagine them without that smartphone in their hands? You may say, oh, that's not a good idea, you should not use the phone so often. You may keep on telling them, they're not going to listen to you. Because it's a very different way of processing the world, right? Now, once you get into that, then you'll understand the disruptions that are likely to take place in organizations of tomorrow. So many jobs are lost, so many million jobs will be lost in this recession period. But the new jobs that will be created will emerge from the ashes of these jobs. And you have to be aware of that, right? And so the new revolution is a revolution of cognition. You're sitting on this chair. And I am a professor from the 4.0 world. I want to figure out how attentive you are sitting on the chair to my talk. And I have a little sensor there, and the sensor measures the movement of your backbone while you're sitting in the chair. So I know how much time you're laughing, how much you are really attentive, how much of the time you have attended my talk, what went wrong during my talk. All that data will be presented to me. Suppose this chair was a dentist's chair. The guy is going to know in real time, when drilling your molars, know exactly what is the pain point. As I am speaking to you, such a surgery is happening in Columbia Hospital in Ohio. This is happening. Dentists are using those sensors, laid in chairs, so that they can take the drill away from that molar to a place where you feel the least amount of pain. As I speak to you, there's somebody in Savile Row in London is teaching your court. And while teaching a court, he will ask you to come for a trial run for the court. In the trial court, there will be a little sensor You know what the sensor will say? He'll tell him where you are uncomfortable in the coat, and so your coat will be restitched accordingly. So you may say, has the coat button become so much intelligent? Or has the chair become intelligent all of a sudden? No. It is intelligence that has been distributed away from the skull brain to everywhere it can be distributed. So there is intelligence everywhere. Are you with me? The only thing is that we had a very narrow definition of intelligence. The definition is changing very quickly. Today, the definition of the human mind is not what is inside the skull brain. Human mind is this skull brain, all other skull brains, plus the space between us. That is called the mind. Mind means that which is inside the brain and that which is in between us. And that in between is also mind. If you can make the in between space intelligent, then you will get lots. You will become an Amazon. You'll become Netflix. You see, Netflix knows exactly what your consumption pattern. I was with the CEO of Netflix in Delhi, the conferences, Times of Times conference. You're saying business requires only 3 things. Businesses of Netflix is the number 1 streaming business in the world, outmaneuvering all its competitors, changing the dynamics of how movies are seen. Netflix knows that only 3 ways to understand what kind of business you're in. 1 is engagement, 2 is revenue, 3 is profits. What is engagement? How long is the consumer staying with your product or your service? And for what reason? That's engagement. Revenue is what kind of money you rake in. And profit is what is the actual cash flow. How do you run the business? And so these only 3 things matter, but everything depends on engagement. Without that, there is no Netflix. You see what I'm saying? So I'm going to break this entire thing up into 3 capabilities that the young people who are sitting here today, this is meant for them, all of them. So what do you need to succeed in the world that's coming to you now? An intelligent universe which has already disrupted our notion of what intelligence really is. And we don't need to go too far. You just go look at a sunflower in the hot sun, looking towards the sun. How does the sunflower know that the sun is on this side? It is orienting towards the sun because the sunflower is phototropic, so it knows exactly how to orient itself towards the source of light. That's not surprising, but what is more surprising is when the sun does not rise, there is a cloud, sunflowers look at each other because they can distribute stored light. How do they know? There must be an intelligence in between the sun and the sunflower. If the sunflower can, if a monarch butterfly flying out of Amazonian forest, going to Canada and coming back again after several generations to the same tree in the forest, how do they know? They don't have a navigation system as sophisticated as human planes. How does a butterfly know to come back that distance? How does a spider craft a spider's web of such silken finesse and artistry? How does a spider know? Because all of them are engaging their environment to solve their problems. Spider's environment is full of intelligence. How does a Siberian bird who comes to our campus and goes back in the winter, after the winter is over, how do they know how to go back? Then you have to understand the nature of intelligence itself is being redefined in a way that you have. So everything can be intelligent provided you know how to embody that intelligence in that. And so for surviving in that kind of a world, what kind of capabilities do you need as first-time managers, professionals, students? The first capability of the mind that you need is clarity. Clarity. And clarity is the toughest thing to get when there's a clutter all around. Everybody knows everything. Everybody knows how to run businesses. Everybody has technology. Clarity is missing. So what is clarity? Clarity is the ability to shift from a swarm of data, meaningless data, to seeing a pattern that nobody else sees and acting on that pattern. Pattern recognition is one of the most important criteria for education of tomorrow. How do you see patterns of possibilities in a product? How do you see cow dung and think of a gobar gas plant? Right? How do you see a vacant room in your flat and think of Airbnb? You know how Airbnb was created? A couple of students of design, they looked at an empty flat, the empty room in their flat, and they said, if somebody could pay for it, it would solve our financial problem. And San Francisco city was full of people who were looking for hotels, cheaper versions of the hotels, and two of them looked around for customers, and one Indian happened to be the first client. He was looking for a cheaper version of hotel for $100. He hired an air bed and a room. That's how Airbnb was born. They hired somebody from Harvard because they had no idea about of the internet, how technology worked. So they got a technology guy, and together they created Airbnb. And it became a model for the world. Airbnb became bigger than American Airlines and Hilton Group of Hotels in 7 years, 7 to 8 years, roughly. So you see what Airbnb did is take the intelligence that was already available and create a service, scale it up in a way that it became a successful product and a service. And so if you look at those elements that made it possible was clarity. What was clarity? From a clutter, you see patterns, you see insights, you have ideas. And those ideas become the basic core of business. So a generation that felt that I have to work hard and I have to work 10 to 5 to succeed in life, that generation is dying out very soon because nobody thinks of 10 to 5. You don't work with your time anymore, we work with your mind. Most people who are time workers, during the day I will work, in the night I will relax, that world is gone completely. There is no night time, there is nothing called day and night in terms of work anymore. Whether you believe it or you don't, that's the way it is. Why is it so? Because the mind is the basis of production, not time. Mind is the basis of creativity. Mind is the basis of new businesses. So you have to understand how to use this mind, how to find clarity. So you know how to rest the mind, how to grow the mind. So the entire empire that you will build today will be built on minds, not on time. That's a major change that is happening. That's number one change. So clarity means lesser number of thoughts per minute. How do I reduce the number of thoughts per minute when I am zeroing in on a problem or focusing on a problem? For that you need a different kind of mind. Not a stormy brain, but a calm mind. A mind that has been cultivated diligently. And this is important. Business schools, such as the one you are running, sir, will require mental capability. Entrepreneurship is mental capability. Creative capability. So that's number one, clarity. Number two is compassionate engagement. Why compassionate engagement? You have to engage your customer in a way that you understand the customer. Not just what he wants, but you understand the customer as a human being. If I went to Seattle and I went to a place where Microsoft is, and I realized that Satya Nadella's next few product line was based on his own son's death. He died because his son could not move a music channel because he was physically impaired, mentally also impaired. So he went back to Microsoft and said, can you create a product which people like my son can use, out of empathy? From his own tragedy, he creates a product. And so what we are saying is that knowing the customer from the core through empathy becomes very important. So we need compassion. Why is compassion necessary? Not because Dalai Lama said it is necessary, but because it is necessary to understand a broader spectrum of human capability. Compassion makes you self-aware much more than anybody else. The more you become aware of your large context, the more compassionate you are, the more you realize what your environment is all about. You can scan the environment better if you see through the eyes of compassion rather than through the eyes of exploitation. This is very critical. We are talking about a new kind of mind here. So clarity coming from lesser number of thoughts per minute. Compassion coming from enlarging the horizon to include others, including your customers. Let me give you one example of each of these. Is that okay? There's some noise here. Is that okay? I'm okay for time? Okay. My phone has rung once. So I must get there before Virat Kohli gets his 100. And so I'm looking at a person whose name is Ratan Tata. And he has just recruited Gopal Krishnan, who was with Hindustan Unilever. He missed his final promotion, so he joined the Tata Group. And Latur, there was an earthquake. And Gopal Krishnan says, sir, we must do a press release about the amount of money we gave for Latur victims earthquake from the Tata Foundation. This has to be widely publicized as our signature. And Ratan Tata looked at him and said, we don't do such things here. When we give, we don't seek publicity. We give. And Gopal Krishnan said, running a multinational, I was surprised that Ratan Tata was not keen to maximize return on this publicity that you would have gotten. Later on I understood why this is an institution that has survived so many vicissitudes, so many changes. So compassion means that you are doing something not because you're helping somebody, but because you're expanding your awareness of who you are. Your identity is growing with each compassionate gesture. If you seek publicity, then your goal is different. Your goal is not knowledge, your goal is return on investment. That's how most business people think, and there's nothing wrong in that kind of thinking. But if you have an institutional builder like a Ratan Tata, then your arc of compassion will be very different. And the final thing I want to share with you before I take a few questions, hopefully there will be, is commitment to excellence. Commitment to excellence. First, I'll give you a story of excellence, and then I'll tell you what excellence is. Cyrus Mistry, the person who just died in a car accident, some of his people had come for Sapurji Palunji's team had come to IIM Kozhikode for training, and I asked one of them to talk about Cyrus Mistry. He said they were constructing this stadium in Nagpur, and according to specifications, we were just given the charge of constructing this, and we had signed a contract, just the stadium. So when the stadium was made, already done, Cyrus Mistry came to see it, and he saw that the pavilion is not looking good. The stadium looks good. Pavilion is very archaic. We have to redo the pavilion. He said, sir, but that's not part of the contract. We don't have to do the pavilion. He said, no. My commitment is to give a stadium that is good. We'll do it at our own cost. Don't worry about whether it is part of the contract. We'll do it at our own cost. Because our job is excellence. Our job is not just doing our job. It is about excellence. And so if you replace the word called organization with the word excellence, if you replace the word atom and molecule with excellence, then you'll see a very different picture. At IIM Kozhikode, this is what we have attempted to do for a long time. The number of years I've been here, this has been my one single point agenda. Whatever we do, it will be to achieve excellence, not profit. Everything will follow, but once excellence is achieved. So I was recruited for this job by a person who is a synonymous with excellence. His name is E. Sridharan, Metro Man of India. We're all very proud of him. I did not know who he was when he was interviewing me. So he said something interesting. He said, what is your vision for IIM Kozhikode? I said, sir, I don't really have a vision. All I can tell you that the guest house I am in the door doesn't close properly, the tea kettle doesn't boil tea well enough, and the sofa creaks as you sit on it. And if I am here, I'm going to make them work. That's all I said. And he came back after 4 years. He saw me picking chewing gum from the road leading to the director's office, and he said, in an address to my students, he said, this is not the director's job to pick up chewing gum, but if he's doing it, it also explains to me why the campus is so spotlessly clean in the middle of monsoon. As I was walking up the staircase, I saw a little napkin, paper napkin, and I drew the attention of the audience that the napkin had to be removed before we go up. So excellence means the ability to constantly focus your attention to the best that you can do with whatever you have. With whatever you have, this is the best that you do. If you have employees, if you have teachers in your organization, ask them to sign a piece of paper at the end of the day. That paper should say, is this the best you could do for the whole day? If not, what percentage of the very best did you do today? And you will see they will find it difficult to sign. Nobody will sign mediocre work as their best. Well, I haven't done my best, but tomorrow I will do better. So I'm today 40%. So they will assess themselves. And then you'll see the move towards best will happen. Whatever little we did here is because we brought out the best in others. One individual can't transform institution. I'll be very foolish to say I have changed this institution, but we committed to excellence. And so just to repeat the whole thing, how do we thrive in a disruptive, how do we unlock intelligence inherent in the human being? We are a combination lock of 4 elements. Elements are rationality, emotional capability, willpower, ingenuity. The combination has to work in proper proportion for the lock to open. How do you unlock that intelligence? By using only these 4, not technology. Technology is only an augmented part of this intelligence, natural intelligence. Natural intelligence will come in 4 formats: rationality, emotional capability, willpower, ingenuity. Our ancients also knew that as well. So when they said artha, 4 pursuits of human being, artha was cognitive intelligence, rational intelligence. Kama was emotional intelligence. Dharma was moral intelligence. Moksha was spiritual intelligence. So they knew multiple intelligences of a human being. Now you have to augment these 4 dimensions of intelligence in your organization in the right proportion. Some organizations will require more rationality, some will require more emotion. Most politicians know. Our Shashi Tharoor knows that if he does not attend funerals and marriages, he is not going to win elections. The politicians have to unlock their intelligence. A priest should know that there is something called moral intelligence that is at work. If he loses that, he loses his credibility as a priest. Right? A spiritual being knows that there is an all-pervasive intelligence, and he does not come under any of the grip of any of the others. So he knows. A liberated human being, a Buddha would know, a Christ would know. Right? So the fundamentals of what intelligence is already inherent in human evolutionary schemata. The only thing you have to unlock is yourself, not an organization, not a structure. For that, you sit with yourself, have an appointment with yourself. And once you have an appointment with yourself, everything that you're looking for will open up in the right proportion, in the right manner. Are you with me? I'm going to end with a little story. Story is about great Alexander, who meets 2 very important people in his life. He meets Heraclitus and he meets an Indian sage whose name we don't know. When Alexander goes to meet Heraclitus, this man is known for his quirks. He does not depend on anybody. He lives on lentils and he sleeps by the riverbed on a barrel. Alexander says, what a strange man. He doesn't do anything for a living. I would have got to meet him. So he goes to meet this person. And Heraclitus is sitting there. Alexander comes with a lot of people, and friends of Heraclitus says, look, if you ask him for anything, he can give you. He's the emperor. He has conquered half the world. So Heraclitus says, oh, really? Is he Alexander? Yeah, he is. So Alexander comes to him and said, Heraclitus, what do you want from me? He said, right now you are blocking the sunshine on my way. Can you move away a little bit so that I can get the sun? That's what I want from you. So Alexander said, nothing more? He said, no, nothing more. When he was moving away, Alexander's friend said, what did you do? I asked him, if I was not Alexander, I would like to be like him because he's the real rich man. And his friends, Heraclitus' friend said, you could have asked for anything. You would not survive on lentils if you did. This was Alexander. He said, if I learn how to survive on lentils, I don't need an Alexander. That's intelligence of an extreme kind. There's another kind of intelligence. I'm drawing your attention to this because this is going to be very important for Indian, unicorns. You will build unicorns, but the way to build unicorns is this pervasive intelligence. So Alexander meets the other sage on the Indian border, and he sees the man is sitting there doing nothing generally, just meditating, doing nothing in particular. You have nothing to do, come on, move on. So Alexander says, what is your name? No answer. What the hell are you doing here? No answer. Don't you have work to do? No answer. He says, I'm going to chop off your head. You know who you are not responding to. This is Alexander. He said, okay, Alexander, now since you're so disturbed, I'm asking you, tell me what is it that you want to do before I tell you what I want to do. I said, I've conquered half the world. That's very nice. What do you want to do next? I have to have all the elephants that I conquered, and then all the horses, and then all the men as my slaves, then all the women as my slaves. Then what do you want to do, Alexander? I want to sit on my throne and look at what I have done and sit in peace there. And this is what the sage said. This is precisely what I'm doing now. Don't bother me. Move on. Move on. This is this intelligence. But to get there, you need to know. I used to believe the sage must be greater than Alexander. Today I have changed my mind. Both are equal components of human motivation. One of them says, I want to conquer the world. I want to establish my empire. I want to have all the territories, all the horses, all the elephants. The other says, my motivation is to find myself. If I find myself, I'll have all of that. And so each of these two compete in our lives. One of them wants to go out there, the other wants to come in and consolidate. Both are equal aspects of human motivation. One is action, the other is reflection. Without that, you can't unlock your intelligence. It is not out there. It is out there and in here, out there, and then you come in here. The Alexander the Sage represents two motivational possibilities, both of equal importance. One of them says, go out there and figure out what the landscape of business is. The other one goes inward and says, figure out what the mindscape of the businessman is. If the mindscape matches the landscape, you will be successful. If they fall apart, your business will fall apart. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we move on to a brief interactive question and answer session. Please place your questions, but make it brief and to the point.
I said Kerala is a process-driven society. One person has to speak first, and then you'll see there will be some more. So who's the first person to speak? Okay, go ahead. What's your name, sir? Vinod? Give him a big hand. He feels encouraged to speak. Thank you. Vinod, do you need the mic to speak here? Can you give him the mic? Or you can speak loudly, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead. What kind of disruptions? Disruptions are expected. Disruptions, right?
Yeah, that means most people are losing jobs because of technology.
Right. Right.
So what kind of to the employee side?
Please sit down. Any job that can be broken down into either or cause-effect relationship will be disrupted. Any job that can be mechanically reproduced as cause-effect relationship will be disrupted. I'll give you two examples of jobs that have gotten disrupted. One is the travel agent's job. You can now click a button and do the booking yourself because there's a format for it. Once anything can be formatted as a cause effect, you are going to lose that. So formatting is done cheaper, faster by any digital device which has got an algorithm that can format it repeatedly. So formatting is out of, so that which assumes a form that is predictable will be disrupted, right? So teacher's job will not be disrupted, but the person who's doing the routine aspect of teaching, that part will be disrupted. A great surgeon's skill will not be disrupted, but the routinized part of the surgeon's skill will be taken over by high speed. Part of the cataract surgery will be taken over. So a part of the job that is routinized, that has rationality embedded in it, at the mechanical level will be disrupted. So there's a thumb rule for it. If you are a creative kind, if you can ideate, you can create, your job will never be disrupted because what the machine can't do, you can do. That's the one that is not likely to be disrupted. Am I clear? So any job that is easy to be done by a machine. Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Any more questions?
Yes, go ahead. Tell us your name.
My name is Prayag.
Prayag? Okay. What is it that you do? Are you a student? Go ahead.
My question is that what are the future jobs that will come when the NextGen management system switches on?
Well, there will be no future jobs. There will only be customers for your talent. Please sit down. I'm going to give you examples. I met a guy called Karma in Bhutan. What does Karma do? Karma collects garbage from the streets of Thimphu and he sells this garbage to a power company and he makes $500,000 or thereabouts US dollars. This is Karma's earning from selling garbage. Now you might think, selling garbage, how does it give money for him? What kind of future is there in garbage? Because garbage is the source of what you saw in Kochi. Can be the basis of a multi-million-dollar industry generating power. It has become a pollutant now because we don't know. Garbage is money, right? We think garbage is waste. It is not waste, it is money. You've heard this expression, my money does not grow on trees. Aapko bola hoga kisi na kisi ne? Your father may have said, money doesn't grow on trees, don't waste my money. But you go to Singapore, there's this guy who sells leaves of trees growing in the Singapore, Malaysia region, processes them chemically, sells them through eBay and makes 250 million Singapore dollars a year. Because the leaves of this tree are best quality aquarium fish food anywhere in the world. And he says, my money actually grows on trees. Why? Because the future is what you are going to create through your capability, through your ingenuity. So a business that does not exist today can exist tomorrow, provided there are two things behind it. One is ingenuity, two is a market for that ingenuity. If there's a market for it, your creativity will find a ready taker. You heard of rasgullas? I come from Bengal, so obviously I know my life is synonymous with rasgullas. How do rasgullas look like? What do they look like? Huh? White and round and sweet, right? There's a Marwari lady in Calcutta who has 20 different varieties of rasgulla. One of them is called chili rasgulla. It is not sweet, it is not white, yet it sells. Why? Because there's a variation of rasgulla that even Bengalis like. Say, I want to now have chili and rasgulla together. What you call fusion food. You know, I used to love a typical Kerala appam, beautiful, fluffy. And I also like a sunny side up egg on the side. I wish that I had them together. In Wellington Island, Taj has started a breakfast menu that says sunny side up on appam. They have combined the two. And you can imagine that anything that did not exist before can be the basis of your occupation, provided there is ingenuity behind it, creativity behind it, and there's a market for your product. Are you with me? In 2001, I am starting digital management development programs. 2001. First time perhaps in Asia. Today that market, that product is our fastest growing. See, today the MBA is 6 years of experience plus intelligence. It's not just your intelligence. So if you have good job experience, you can get into an MBA college much better today. Because that experience combined with your intellect is a new growth story for MBA students. So that nobody would have thought that. So our digital program has become our fastest growing. Our brand recognition is happening through a digital program we started way back in 2001. Others copied it, but we were the first mover. So we have a much bigger brand in this space than Ahmedabad or Bangalore, because we were the ones who moved in first. And we are getting the kind of students, see, for instance, in that program, somebody who works in Microsoft in Bangalore, immediately after the Kozhikode program gets a transfer to Seattle, headquarters of Microsoft, because of the MBA. This is our fastest growing segment. We had not thought of that, but this is the future. The future of MBA is different from the past, right? So our cognitive, so why is this, what kind of jobs are the future? That's why I said there are no jobs in the future. There are only possibilities. What is a job? Job, the word job comes from something you do repeatedly, every day, day after day. That concept is changing. The very nature of job is changed. So what is my job? My job is 24/7 thinking. This is my job. So you are paid only for thinking? Yes. Hell of a lot of money just for thinking. And so thinking is a job? Yeah, it's a full-time job. So where do you think? Anywhere? I can think in my, on a mountain top, I can think inside a temple. Doesn't matter where I can think. I choose where I think best. So the point I'm trying to make is this, that don't worry about jobs that will be there. Although you may be aware of them, but don't worry about them because they may not be there by the time you get there. Or even if they're there, they may not be in the same format that they're there today. So if you're really good, the only way to progress towards this market where the customer talent is, become really excellent in something, really good in something. In Delhi, when I was staying in South Delhi, I appointed a security guard from my home. And I chose the guard who had the best mustache, biggest mustache. His full-time job, 60% of his time he cultivates his mustache. And nobody in Delhi has that kind of mustache. And people get afraid because his height is tall with a mustache like that. I recruited him. He says 60% of his time goes in just defining himself in his mustache. Now what you do is your business. There's a person in southern France who makes locomotives, railway engines that have long become obsolete. He makes just 4 of them by hand, handcrafts them. And he sells each one of them for 250 million euros. Sorry, 250,000 euros. Each one of them. I said, who buys this thing? He said, I sell 4, but they are bought by richest of rich people who want to give that exclusive gift to their children, and they want my handcrafted stuff. You see? And so, I'm not saying they are just exceptions. They are the trends of the future. When you spot a trend, you realize that the notion of jobs from being repetitive is being taken over. See, repetition of the machine in the physical age, in the 2.0 was, they're taking away our physical work. Now they are taking away our mental work that is repetitive. So our mind is getting replaced. What part of the mind is repetitive? The repetitive mind, the job mind is getting replaced by the entrepreneurial mind. Even if you are within the organization, you can be an entrepreneur. You don't have to start your business within the organization. Most Indians who work in public service are extrapreneurs. They make money on the side. Many of them, not all of them. They must be entrepreneurs to be able to do that. How can you avoid all this vigilance and all of that and make money on the side? You require. So extrapreneurship is possible. Why is entrepreneurship not possible? With same creativity. Same creativity you can deploy to doing something good. So you don't have to go and say, most people think, I have to start up something. Come on. The failure rate, mortality rate of startups is so huge. You can be wherever you are and start something that you're really good at. Excel in something. Be really good in something. And people will pay you for it. If you can be a Messi, there is no end to how much you can get paid. You don't have to know any other skill. You have to be really good at it. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Search for excellence, not for a job. If you're excellent, jobs will fall at your feet. All right? Thank you.
Now, thank you, dear sir, for your inspiring, wonderful speech that gave us much to ponder on and has many rich takeaways. Your very presence definitely serve as a guiding light to the entire audience assembled here on this occasion. Let me call upon Advocate James Thomas, CMA, to present a token of love and appreciation on behalf of CMA to our guest.
Is there an option for a question?
Not working. Yeah. Before you do that, just to say that from behalf of I Am Kozhikode community, we are privileged that we are able to host you here. We are a public institution. We are a public institution made for people in Kerala, made by people of Kerala for the world, for the country and the world. So this is your institute as much as it is mine. Feel free to come here whenever you choose to, provided you bring some value.
Thank you, dear sir, for that.
And some of you who can aspire to get inside the organization will cherish the fact that we have a smaller representation of people from Kerala in this institute. I hope it gets bigger. This is your institution and you own it up. You come in here and change it, transform it in the way only you can. And I'm deeply grateful that we could host it and we'll continue to do so in the future going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there an option to ask a quick question to you?
So one more question.
Morning, sir. Very interesting presentation and very interactive discussion. As always, we enjoyed hearing you. My question is more towards the first two rows representing I'm in my early 60s. We always looked at the back where there is this change from the 3.0 to 4.0 world they're going to face. We too are in a transition phase. We have seen this change from 3.0 to 4.0. And the people in 60s 10 years back from the people in 60s now, their roles are different, their engagement models are different, their interactions are different. So how do we cope up in this? What is the new thing? From IIM Kozhikode perspective, are you going to offer us an entrepreneurship opportunity for people at that stage to cope up with this world? Or also from the social front, how we make best out of this? We transition from 3.0 to 4.0. Thank you.
Thank you so much for asking that. You see, the thing is that we often don't engage with age groups that are different from ours. If you engage, there's something called reverse mentorship that happens. What is reverse mentorship? You learn from the youngsters what is the aspiration of the world of the future. They learn from you a thing or two in the past that you have learned from. Most people in their 50s and 60s would do a lot better by just saying, let me have a group of 5 young people with whom I would like to have a weekly conversation, a quarterly conversation, a monthly conversation, whatever suits you both. To learn from them, how do they see the world? How is it different? This is something very important because there's always a generational shift that's happening because we are disengaged. In the name of, somebody says, Dad, I want to start up something. You say, shut up. Answer to start up is shut up. That's not engagement. Engagement is, oh, you want to start up? What is it that you want to start up? What excites you? Let me learn from you how it works. Can you spend some time with me? We don't engage. 2 of us are looking at the same screen, blank screen, not talking to each other. Father and son are 2 different territories altogether. One is from Mars, the other is from Venus. It doesn't work that way. So I have to take, onus is on me because my learning curve has hit a block. So I have to learn from this young generation. So people were talking about Chatterjee. My kid was calling from Singapore. He said, Chatterjee is going to revolutionize how answers are going to be written. I said, what is Chatterjee? He said, you don't know? You can write like Tennyson, you can write like Shakespeare. If you just put your essay there, it will write like Shakespeare. I said, okay, so first thing I did, I said, write like Debashis Chatterjee. I've written 17 books. And, oh my God, I did not know. My style was being represented to me. This is how I write. So I learned. You see, yesterday I learned how to use that program. So I'm telling you that engagement is the basic. So you have to reach out to them. They will not come to you. You have to reach out to them. You don't have to dye your hair purple to get to meet them. You just have to talk to them in their terms. Figure out where they hang out, what they are talking about. Eavesdrop on their conversation. Share some junk food, even if it is junk for you. Have half a pizza or a quarter size. And then you'll get to bond and begin to figure out that the world that they're seeing, very different. Their cognitive maps are very different from yours and mine, right? That's a way to go about doing it. I would suggest that will be one good prescription. Find your group of 5 and meet them periodically. You will learn a lot. They will learn a lot from you as well because they'll get from you. You see, I have a classroom called Gurukul. If you haven't seen that, you should go and have seen. That's my place for interacting with young people in this. I bring a group of 10, 20 and I have chat with them. I get the Swiss ambassador to learn about dairy farming. You see, I'm getting Arif Muhammad Khan and learning about governance and his tussle with the government. How does he manage it? So I learn from multiple sources as to how this helps solve their problems. And it happens in a classroom called Gurukul, where we are all equal. In that classroom, we are on the eye line of nobody's high or low. Eye line with each other. We sit in the same floor space and we chat. Okay? Thank you.
Now, Advocate James Thomas, the past president of CMA, please come and hand over a token of love and appreciation on behalf of CMA. I may call upon Mr. Ashik CS to propose the formal vote of thanks to this session.
Respected our chief guest, Prof. Debashis Chatterjee, President, Calicut Management Association, Conference Committee Chair, and other dignitaries on and off the dais, a warm good morning to each and everyone. Despite of his busy schedule, we have been blessed with the presence of our own director, Professor Debashis Chatterjee. In his speech, he redefined our theme, unlocking the power of intelligence, by putting practical examples. So it was very nice talk, and he touched so many points: informative architecture, 4.0 cognitive revolution, in addition to machine revolution, intelligence revolution, etc. He put some practical example for redefining this subject also. It was very excellent. On behalf of Calicut Management Association, I would like to extend our sincere gratitude for your presence, talk, and interaction and blessing. And also he announced it's your institution, IMK, it's your institution. That's what's very touching things for being the Calicut, especially Kozhikode people. We are all always looking for the development and something new from IMK, especially Calicut Management Association. So I would like to conclude with sincere gratitude for your presence, and also for all the delegates over here for this inauguration ceremony of technical session. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Now,
Jai Hind.
let me invite the MC members of CMA to move on to the stage for a photo session with the guest. Meanwhile, I request the guests, delegates, and organizers of AMC 2023 to have a cup of tea, and mind you be back for the next session beginning at 11